So have you ever had a good tenant, a good long-term tenant, have a problem one particular month with paying their rent? Maybe you have, like me, received a call like I did this very week from one of my tenants. They called my cell number, which is a longer story. I don't know how they got that. Called my cell number and he said, hey Mark, got a problem here. My hours have been cut. My check's a little bit low this month. I think I'm fine, but I wanted to find out if it's okay if I pay half my rent today, and if I can pay the other half the rent on the 14th of the month. I'll still pay the late fee, but is that okay? Now, what would you say in that situation? Would you just kind of make it up on the spot and say, oh, yeah, I guess that's fine. You've been there a long time. You're good. I like you. Sure. Or would you say, no, I'm sorry. You're evicted. You're out. We're starting the eviction process. What would you say? And more importantly, how would you determine what you're going to say? Well, let me give you some guidance and some processes to put in place, because what you want to be able to do is have a set answer to that question every time, whether it's directed to you, one of your random staff people, but whoever gets that call, they can give some guidance. And here's how they're going to do that. Number one, you want to have in your office a documented eviction policy, number one, and two, an eviction checklist. Those are two separate things. An eviction policy. Now, eviction policy may be something like this. You've heard us talk about system manuals. This is one of our system manuals. This happens to be our new account specialist system manual. But we have a system manual like this for our director of accounting. So it trains our director of accounting how to respond to questions like that. What do I say? What payment arrangements are we as an office allowed to make with an individual versus when do we have to say, no, I'm sorry, we can't wait 45 days for your rent. We are going to have to evict you. But how do you make that decision? This makes that decision for you, because one of our KRAs in here talks about driving the collection of delinquent rents. And it talks about the delinquent rent payment arrangements that we as a company are authorized and allowed to make. Now, how do we determine this? Well, it's not a right or wrong. It's just what you're comfortable with for your company. By the way, at the end of this video, I'll tell you where you can get a copy of this for yourself if you want to check it out and see exactly what our payment arrangements look like. Now, you also want to have an eviction checklist so that in the case that you say, no, Mr. Tenant, I can't wait 85 days without your rent, we're going to have to initiate the eviction process. You're not making up that eviction process as you go, because sometimes we don't do it real often. So we want to have a checklist we're following. And it may be as straightforward as, post the legal notice, email the notice off the attorney, call the attorney for a court date, call the owner to inform them, call the sheriff, right? Just bang, bang, bang. Get that documented. Number two, you want to have a documented payment arrangement policy. So that's how we're going to process it, but this is more detailed, but it's going to be within here as well, part of this as well, is so that we can say, like we could say to that person that called me, hey, Mr. Tenant, not a problem. Here's how it's going to work. Here is our policy on how we're going to handle that payment arrangement. Our policy is something like this. We said, no problem. As long as you can pay half the rent on the first, we're still going to post the legal eviction notice. We're going to start that process. So you can expect to receive that on your front door on the 3rd. However, we'll sit on that notice. We'll hold it. We're not going to send it to the attorney. We'll sit on it till the 15th. And as long as you come in on the 15th with the balance due plus late fees, we'll just file that notice in your file, and it's as if everything's good. We're good. Now, if you don't come in on the 15th, guess what happens on the 16th? That notice goes off to the attorney, and we start the eviction process. So make sure that you have that documented. Takes the headache and the guesswork, as well as protects you from fair housing to make sure you're not playing favorites that way. Now, in that case, you still want to enforce your late fee policy. Don't waive late fees. We're still going to charge this guy a late fee, and he's happy to pay it because we're working with him. So make sure you don't do that. Before I give you guidance number 4, I want to thank real quickly our sponsor for this video, Seacoast Commerce Bank. They're a sponsor of this video, as well as our website, propertymanagementsystem.org. Man, we love these guys. We switched to them a year and a half ago, one of the best business decisions we made. Switching banks is a big deal. It's a scary deal. I get that. So glad we did. Not only are they easy to work with, they keep us in full compliance for trust accounting, but it's also, we get an earnings credit. They actually pay us money to do their banking with them. Pretty cool stuff. When this video's over, hop over to the sponsor page, get the contact information for Seacoast Commerce Bank, watch the video on why we use them, what we like about them. Contact Allison Desario, but it's sccombank.com is their website if you want to go over there. Call them, see if they work in your state. You will not regret it. Number 4, still begin your eviction process. So let's go back to my guy that I just talked about. As I said, we told him we're still going to post the legal eviction notice on your door. Now in Colorado, and this is obviously a state specific to you, we have to post a 10-day notice. We have to give them 10 days that we basically have to sit on our hands and wait for the rent to come in before we can actually start the eviction process with the attorney and get a court date set. So what that means, Mr. Tenant, is we're still going to post that legal eviction notice on your door on the 3rd. Remember, you paid half on the 1st. We're posting it on the 3rd, but we're going to sit on it. We're just going to hold it in our back pocket until the 15th. If you pay on the 15th, we're all happy. If you don't pay on the 15th, now we've already passed our 10 days, so we don't have to go backwards. We didn't just lose 15 days or 10 days. So start your eviction process, and our recommendation is carry it up to the point that you're not incurring any legal expenses, you're not actually going through the legal process, whatever that means for your state, of evicting the tenant. But get to as close to that point as you can so that if they don't fulfill their obligations, you've already done all the back legwork you need to, and you can just move forward with the eviction process because it's further along the process. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. If you like these videos, feel free to subscribe. Make sure you don't miss one in the future. I also want to highlight the video coaching. We've been doing that for a couple months now. This month, we're talking about your numbers, the things you should be measuring on a monthly basis, like eviction rates, how to measure them, how to track them. We're sharing some docs on that. If your company's great with that, then you're tight. If not, I encourage you to check out our video coaching. I've also been asked about our live events. Excuse me. We'll have more of those coming up, so pay attention, watch out for those. We'll probably have another Pulling Back the Curtain event. If you want information on that, drop us an email. We'll be sure to inform you when that's ready to go. I talked about our system manuals. If you want to view a sample of our actual system manuals where we document all these processes, then when this video is over, click on the Products tab, scroll down to System Manuals, and you'll see a list of our 10 or 11 different system manuals in there. You can download our actual system manuals, a sample of them. So for example, as it relates to what we're talking about here, driving the collection of delinquent rents, this is what one of the items in there says. It says, throughout the collection process, contact delinquent residents a minimum of 1 time per week. Oh, so we note that in there. All contact and attempted contact should be written down on the back of the 10-day notice. That's for our internal records. If a resident has made a payment arrangement, note the specifics of the arrangement. Be sure to include the date, the time, the payment type. My point is this is super detailed because we want our person, regardless of who's following it, to do it the same way every time. You want this more than a checklist. You want this a detailed training manual. That's why it's a position-specific system manual. So check ours out. Download our sample. You can buy our products, our system manuals there if you want them from that standpoint. PropertyManagementSystem.org. Make sure, however, you have a process in place. It is time to get a process in place so you don't have to make this up as you go. Take the pressure off yourself. Do this one time and then start following your process, and you can always tweak it along the way. Hope that's helpful to you.